How's it going? Hey,
Now
how
we're
are
live.
you? King Daniel and TC. It's an honor to be here, and it's just a glorious day. It's a wonderful day to be alive and to be the first
Absolutely.
Jason Voorhees. Okay.
Yeah, and what's up, y'all? This is the 140th episode of the In Your Face show,
I love it.
and
And
I'm
you're
here with Mister, and I'm here with Mister Ari Lehman, my brother
Thank you.
King Dave. What's up, y'all?
What's going on? What's going on?
Happy
Glad
to
to be
be
here.
here. Happy to be here. It's a blessed day.
All right, let's get it. So, without further ado, we want Mr. Ari Lehman to introduce himself. Let the people know what's
Yes, it's
going on
me.
with him.
It's me. Yes, I'm Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. Of course, not the big Jason, not this Jason here, of course, but there's a bobblehead there. But we're talking about I played the baby Jason in
Drinking no
the
tears.
lake. The lake Jason, the very first Friday the 13th, and I'm blessed and honored to be a part of this legacy that continues to this day. As I said, a journey began for Jason Voorhees in 1979 when Sean Cunningham said action, and the Voorhees family was born, really.
Hmm.
And I never take it for granted how much the fans love Jason. It's really become part of American mythology, if you will, to this day. People are just so just look at all the films that have been made, and now I even have a band called First Jason,
Yeah.
a metal
Okay.
band, and we've been honored to perform all over the world. We do about 200 shows a year, and that's what's keeping me going, singing songs like Jason Never Dies, Machete is My Friend,
There you
Sink
go.
or Swim, kind of all taking a philosophical approach to the role of Jason and the whole idea of life and death and good and evil and all of that stuff. And of course, the idea of a mother's love never dies, and the whole imagery of Mother Voorhees and Mama Voorhees and baby Jason, if you will,
There
which
you go.
has echoes in other literature and throughout history. But in all honesty, of course, people just love watching Friday the 13th, and I'm proud to say First Jason for fun. We're not. It's not one of those deep thinky franchises like, I don't know, The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby or even The Shining. Those are very profound, deep movies by amazing writers and directors and Stanley Kubrick and Stephen King. And this is not. This is a monster story that loves
Hmm.
the idea of, the young people being kind of babes in the woods. And
Hmm.
of course, in the first one, my character appears in the lake only. And what a lot of people don't know is that in the original script, gentlemen, Jason never comes out, never, the original script, which they changed, obviously, was submitted and rejected by Paramount, in which Jason he did not come back to life, if you will. In other
Oh
words, he
wow.
was just a drowning child. I went home in the summer in August of 1979 thinking, wow, I'm just a kid that drowns in this movie. I was kind of disappointed. But Paramount Pictures objected. They said, you have a kid that drowns, and then you have an old lady that gets her head decapitated. We can't buy it like that. You got to change something. Okay. And so they called me back in October.
Mm.
Okay. Months had passed. And Sean calls me up. He says, we need you to come back. And I was upset. I said, I'm dead. What is my character going to do? Just lie there? And he said, no. He said, no, you get your revenge. And I just got goosebumps and I went, wow, okay, let's do it. and I guess the rest is history. They added that final scene where Jason comes out of the water and grabs poor Alice in the boat. They did that in October of 1979. So that's how people, and the ironic thing is, people love that final scene when I come up all covered in mud and gook, and they basically forgot the rest of the movie, and they just wanted Jason. They want more Jason. So that was a good thing that they changed it at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you kicked off a lifetime of excellence, man. I'm glad they changed that, and you were a part of it. That's great.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it was the kickoff. Exactly. It was just the beginning, and I'm glad that I was the kid that they asked to do it.
Big things have a small beginning.
Yes, no doubt.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I always wondered, man, like, if they would have gave you the big Jason role, how would you would have felt? Like, what would have
It's
been?
very nice of you to say that. Now, of course, Jason with the hockey mask does not appear until part 3. That's
right.
And that was, of course, Richard Brooker, he was about 6'4" or 6'5". So, I'm like 5'10", so I wouldn't have been selected to play Big Jason at any point. But I'm proud to have been small enough to be selected as Baby Jason when I was 14. It's a funny story because it kept changing production companies. King Daniel. It kept changing. Sean Cunningham was doubtful of the outcome of the film because he didn't like the fact that they changed the ending.
Wow.
And no confidence in Friday the 13th. And he sold it 100% to the producer, Steve Miner. And Steve Miner went on to make millions. And Sean stood there and, oh my gosh. So Sean got back in on part 4. Okay, the final chapter, which wasn't the final chapter at all.
Right.
But there's 12 Friday the 13th. But, so it was a kind of a strange way that it passed hands, of course. Now, the second Jason, if you'll recall, had a kind of odd canvas sack on his head. Do you remember?
Right. I remember.
And he was played brilliantly by Steve Dash, who passed away, who's a wonderful, wonderful character, and I love him to pieces. He was from New York City. He's kind of a Goomba. He was like, "Hey, Ari, come here. When are you gonna cut your hair already, please?" He was tough as nails and sweet as could be, and we miss him. He
Absolutely.
In fact, he was a great guy. I have all kinds of great stories about him. But so he played the one which I lovingly call Sackhead Jason. But Hockey Mask Jason was part 3, and by that time the production was in Hollywood. I lived in Connecticut, and that's where Sean happened to have his company. And that's why I got the break. I snuck into a general audition for one of his films at the YMCA in Westport, Connecticut. So it just shows you that that was for a different film he did, which was a comedy about kids that play soccer and all this stuff. So I was kind of a good soccer player, and some of my friends were in there. So I snuck into that audition. And just by having, that good old belief in myself, oh yes, but it combined it with a little bit of I don't know, ingenuity, you might say, because I thought to myself, they're going to ask me some kind of question, when I got there. I was all of 12, so I had a clipboard with me. You see, so I went in and I looked like I knew what I was doing. I had my pen there and a clipboard. I said, "Where's the audition?" And they said, "It's upstairs." So I wrote upstairs. I walked up the stairs, and I was almost to the. And they said, "Hey, wait a minute!" I just kept going, and so I landed an 80-line role in the movie as Roger. This was the comedy that led to finally Friday the 13th. Anyway, yes, so that worked. They said, "Do you have an agent?" I said, "No, I don't have an agent." "Oh, is that your agent back there? Hi."
Yeah, that's the money maker, the money stealer, I should say. Say hi. Say hi. Hi. Get out of here. Go play.
Beautiful girl. Beautiful girl. Hello.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. They said, "Do you have an agent?" I said, "No." They said, "Great." And so, that was kind of one of Sean's other projects. The way things go sometimes in Hollywood is they give you a contract, and it might not be the script that you propose is the one they accept. They keep working with you until you're like, okay. And so Friday the 13th is the one that they accepted, again, after he modified it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hollywood is tough. That's why I'm not around there very much. I'm in Chicago.
Right. Hey, Chicago is where it is, man. So Mr. Lehman, right?
Yes.
Was there any other roles that you would have loved to have done and played?
Well, recently, I played a bunch of roles in independent horror films that I love because they let me do anything, basically. And I basically get to play myself, and I get to play some really cool roles. Independent horror is fun. If you ever want to do, they cast everybody. So, of course, they cast me with my association with Friday the 13th. I can help fan funding and all of that. So, there's a movie called The Barn. Okay. And now they have a new sequel called The Barn 2. Somehow, and I'm in that, somehow it is the number 2 horror streaming today, right behind Terrifier 2. So you've got Terrifier 2 and then The Barn 2. Now, Terrifier 2 is really hardcore gore, but The Barn 2 is different. It's a horror comedy. And I play Dr. Rock, who's a video DJ. Okay, it's basically myself. And, I play a keytar. Well, in this movie, I get to kill zombies with my keytar. And a nail gun, which jams at one point. So it's like a machine nail gun. Yeah, it's just a silly, but great. They did great special effects. It's a lot of fun. I'm very happy to be Dr. Rock in The Barn and The Barn 2. Now, The Barn 2 has Doug Bradley, who played Hell Priest, also known as Pinhead in Hellraiser.
Oh, wow.
He's in it, and he does a great job in it. And also Lloyd Kaufman is in it. Linnea Quigley is in it. Joe Bob Briggs and his gal are in it. So it's got a lot of it's a fun horror comedy that's streaming right now, The Barn 2. But if you were to say, are there any roles that I'd like to play? Well, gosh, I mean, I think I'd like to play Svengali. I'd like to play Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Chepes, Vlad the Impaler. I'd like to play Rasputin.
I mean, you could play the Leprechaun too.
Bring it on. If they would let me, I'd be way better than the CGI.
Oh yeah.
Everything's going CGI now, AI. They said, we'll take your likeness and we'll make it to AI. I said, no, you don't. They'll do it.
Well, I mean,
I like having fun. Okay, I was just maybe because of the writer's strike. Okay, they just cast me in 3 new independent horrors. One is a Friday the 13th fan film called Blood Loss. Another one is about witches, and another one is about like it's like a summer camp theme that's being filmed in Illinois. So, I do a bunch of those independent films. See, the way I look at it is this. I'm an entertainer, and that's what I do for a living. And I love entertaining, and I love interacting with the fans. It's so wonderful. The age group that loves Friday the 13th, but then now there's this phenomenon of like kids are into Jason. They love Jason. They see Jason as kind of, he loves his mom, and so I have so much fun with that at the conventions and everything. So I embrace it. So whether it's a show for my band, an autograph convention, or they have me in an independent film, I just see it equally. It's all one. So I just want to show up, do the best I can do, be present, and show everybody that I want to help and love and do the best I can do. And if it's time to rock out, I'm going to rock you so hard that you won't forget it. And if it's time to scare, you won't forget that either. So that's my evil power, actually, is songs. If you check out my songs, they kind of, the hooks stay in your head forever.
Right.
Jason is watching and he sees everything. People call me and say, I can't forget this melody. And that's my evil power.
You gotta have a hold on, so you gotta have an attachment to people when you meet them. That's dope.
Oh,
yeah.
No, yes. Speaking, not joking. Yes. Oh, no, I feel that that's the key. That's always the key. Just being present.
Yeah. Like, what made you, wanting to get into horror? Like, what made you want to get into horror in the beginning?
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, when I was a kid, I was just interested in being in films in general. But I did love horror. I loved the first horror movie I saw was The Mummy, the old Mummy with Boris Karloff, and it was parts of it were actually filmed in Egypt, and it was so cool. Like, wow, and that blew my mind. And then I kept my dad would watch those classic horror films with me, and I remember having debates about who was the best Dracula. I thought Bela Lugosi was the best Dracula at summer camp, oddly. And then my friend said, no, it's Christopher Lee. And, but so I was, like any kid loves horror. But honestly, at that time, I was more into learning the piano and stuff like that. I was learning about jazz. That's really where my head was at, and reggae music and all that. It was the 70s. So
right. That says a lot.
I got cast as Jason. Now that just happened to occur. So it brought me into that world. It wasn't really, it's not like my parents were, it wasn't. And also, if you recall, in those days, it was not really mainstream. Now horror is mainstream. But little Ari Lehman would wake up in the morning in Westport, Connecticut, and I wanted to be like a little Rastafarian. Okay, like that's where my head was at. I was like vegetarian, being Irie and Ital, and wake up in the morning and go swimming in the Long Island Sound, and I just thought I was a little Rasta man. And then I ended up, as a matter of fact, working in reggae and world music, because I'd always been inspired, by Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix, John Coltrane. These were my real inspirations, as anyone who knows me will tell you. When I was in college, I was like a John Coltrane fanatic. I had 36 John Coltrane albums, and for 1 year, I did not listen to anything in my dorm room except John Coltrane. And all the jazz musicians would come up and complain, oh, man, stop already. I said, no, a love supreme. A love. I was like, man, no, forget it. I was really into it. And, but then as you go through those phases, go through those phases where you just, that's it. But then fortunately, I began to see the light of everything around me, and I did my first professional gigs were with reggae bands.
Nice.
It just, a little bit with kind of touring rock and roll bands, but then what happened was I had a dear friend from Nigeria, West Africa, who was a spiritual advisor, but also a percussionist. Okay. And so one day he calls me up. He says, Ari, my friend has come from Lagos and they don't have a keyboard player. You have to come. You have to come now. And I said, of course, Baba Dio. Okay, Baba Dio, you asked me. I'm going to get in the car and we're going to go. He says, no, you got to hurry right now. Ari, get in the car. So I'm driving. I don't even know where I'm going. And we're in Brooklyn. We go to this audition. And all these guys, they're all from Nigeria. And I'm like, what? And so it was crazy. Right, my friend Nelson brought me over. And when he brought me in, so he had gone to high school with the lead singer of this band.
Oh, wow.
And they saw each other. Oh, they haven't seen each other in years. And, oh, my gosh. Oh, they're West Africans are so happy and loud and everything, so much fun. So I auditioned for that band, and I got into that band, probably with a little help from Nelson. So I ended up working for that, and that was Majek Fashek and the Prisoners of Conscience from Nigeria. So I toured with them for like 10 years. Okay. I was on his Spirit of Love album. Here was an artist from West Africa who could sing like Bob Marley and play guitar kind of like Jimi Hendrix. And he had a song called Send Down the Rain, which anyone from Nigeria knows all about. So this was a huge experience for me. What ended up happening was I ended up working for Tough Gong Records, Interscope Records, that's Jimmy Iovine. So, it was an amazing time. And so I was touring around with these world music bands. That was my initial thing. And working in reggae and world music, I even got to go to the Ivory Coast in West Africa. I got to travel to the Ivory Coast, which was an amazing experience. Okay. And I got to perform for Sister Carol and Ijaman Levi and all these big reggae artists. So then, I'd come back to America and, world music had that big phase, but then, what happened? Okay, so during that time, I met my beautiful wife, Elaine, and I proposed to her, asked her to come to New York City. But, things were in a big heyday of world music. And then we had that terrible disaster of 9/11. And now you remember 9/11 kind of put a kibosh on world music, All of a sudden it wasn't, it was just a different vibe. Not to mention a lot of the venues in New York closed. And my wife and I were actually Red Cross volunteers at the 9/11 site. So at Ground Zero itself. So, a lot of stuff changed. And after about a year or so, we moved to Chicago. Now, while I was in Chicago, a fan sent me a photo, an email saying, did you autograph this picture? And I was like, I hadn't even thought about Jason
Yeah.
So to think about the way it is now, it's almost phenomenal. So I said, no, I didn't autograph that. So this person had purchased a forged autograph. Someone had forged my autograph and was selling it online. So that's how I found out that people bought, people were still interested in who was Jason Voorhees, who was the actor. And Fangoria magazine invited me to my first convention, gentlemen, which was at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. And there were thousands of people there. And I got there and I'm like, what? The parking lot is full of cars. And I'm like, my heart's racing like this. So there's lines of people. I had no idea. And I met Kane Hodder, who played Big Jason. And I saw Tom Savini, the makeup artist again. But maybe the best part was I met Betsy Palmer, who played Mama Voorhees. They say, go in this room, go over there, okay, and wait. So there she is. And, I didn't meet her in the movie because I'm in the lake the whole time. So I just go up to Betsy and I just put my arms like this and I say, Mama. And she just puts her arms around me and gives me the biggest hug, and then, because that's how she was. And then she puts her arms on my shoulder and looks at me and says, now who the F are you? Like she had no idea. So then I explained, it's me. Then she gave me a big hug. So Betsy, this is the coolest. Yeah, she was the coolest. She could make people laugh all day. She played my mom, and she had the same birth date as my mom, November 1st. And we became really good friends, yeah.
I got a question, very good question. How could you hold your breath in the water that long?
Well, thank you. Well, I'll tell you how that scene went. Of course, King Daniel. It's movie magic, my friend. Movie magic. It's all mirrors, smoke and mirrors. So the scene goes, they show the water, especially at the end. But of course, Alice is in the boat in the center of the pond. But then when they filmed the scene that I'm doing, they filmed it much closer to the edge of the pond. So I'm only in a small amount of water. But see, they really wanted to scare the actress. So the director devised that he was not going to say action the first time I came out of the water so that she would just be scared,
It'll be more real. Wow.
And of course, because she's an actress waiting for them to call action. So she's sitting in the boat and he whispers, he comes up to me, he says, the cameras are rolling. You're not going to hear me say action if you're underwater, he says. So you're the director, Ari. Wait for the bubbles to clear on the surface. That's action. Then, and all he said was, then just come out and grab Adrian. And I'm like, okay, I'm the director? I'm the director. Like, that's all I could think. He was so smart. So I go out in the water and I realized what he was doing. But she didn't know. Savini didn't know. The cameras were rolling. They're all waiting for them to say action. I go under the water. I got all the ugly makeup on. And I say, well, how am I going to come up out of the water? Am I going to be like playful, like we're at a swimming pool? And then I thought, no, she killed my mom, So I grab the side of the boat and I just come up and I'm coming up and, the famous shot. And it's like, I realize that this nice lady has no idea what's going on. And she looks and it's where she goes, blah, her face just changes. And they had to cut when they included it in the film, but they had to cut that because she grabbed my arms. She said, get the F off of me, fell in the water. She's like, oh, but fell in the water, okay? They had to blow dry her hair to do the second take. But got that real change in her face where she just, blah. And if you look now, and you can even see it as a GIF on, YouTube. It's a medium shot, and then it's a close-up. That close-up was that first take where poor Adrian was basically tricked. And she said to me, she said, you jumped the gun. He didn't say action.
Little did she know. That's crazy. That's super dope. Like that's like one of the first unscripted scenes that happened that only you knew when to go, and that's just you got her real reaction, which was what the fuck. Wow.
Well, it speaks volumes for Sean Cunningham because he knew that moment, like they had come back, they had wrapped this film, and Paramount's like, we can't buy it like that. So everything was hinging on this being done in a way that would have an effect. Tom Savini devised a scene based on what is called misdirection in haunted houses. In other words, we call your attention over here, and then whammo, that's right in your face. Okay, so it's but then if you think about it, they have the water, which is a symbol of everything's over. It's clean, and it's the morning, and there's this beautiful music, and then you see the sun on the water, which is always a symbol of everything's okay. Then the policeman shows up, and he goes, "Are you okay?" So now, literally, people would start to leave the theater. There was a place where it looked like they were going to have the credits roll, and then the music was nice, and then whammo! I come out of the water, and grown men started crying, and popcorn would fly. People would throw up. People peed their pants. All kinds of wonderful things happened.
Iconic.
And if you think about it, it really has a lot to do with Jaws.
Yeah,
if you really think about it. That really has a lot to do with Jaws and Jason, even the word, and the way that ended up. And I like to look at 80s horror in that way because 70s horror was very preoccupied with, damnation, sin, hell, The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby. My gosh, the themes, The Omen, Damien. Wow.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, no, see, that's a departure. That's a departure.
Okay.
See, no, that's where we turn the page because Leatherface, it's nothing about sin. It's not about the afterlife. Or people would go home after The Exorcist thinking about so much stuff. You see, when we made that departure it was really Jaws, it's the monster, first one, and then TCM, Texas Chainsaw, Leatherface, then Michael.
Oh, okay.
But somehow it was Jason that people related to the most, probably because the mama thing. They brought in mom and. But all I'm saying is that it goes away from that whole thing of The Exorcist, my gosh, where it's, all this whole other very complicated. Come on, people go to horror movies on a date. They want to have fun. They don't want to go home and think about all of that. And I think that's why 80s horror really was so darn successful.
Oh yeah. So how do you? Go ahead, Dave.
No, go.
So I just want to know, what is your take on horror films now compared to back when you were doing them? How, what
sure. No, that's a great question. Well, I think a couple of things. Horror movies always change with the time and with the technology. So I think there's a great opportunity now with all kinds of technology that we have to create scenes of horror on all kinds of levels. And it's going in that direction. Where we were really saved was television. You have American Horror Story and Stranger Things that really came in and saved the day currently. Then you've got Terrifier. And what I see in Terrifier, because I know those guys, Damien and David Howard Thornton, Damien Leone and David Howard Thornton. A lot of people have been doing 80s homage, if you will, independent horror. But this team, they really didn't use CGI. They really went back to the old techniques. And they went back to that whole idea of you're here to get scared, so we're going to scare you. It's not, there's no agenda, there's no political story, there's no other story. So I don't know if you've seen Terrifier 1 and 2. They really are a departure, and they really are fine work. However, if you're not into gore, do not see these films, because they've embraced. See, in Friday the 13th, they introduced this concept because they had good special effects team, and they just kind of pushed the envelope a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that was how many years ago? So now when it's time to push the envelope, just like everything we do nowadays, wow, they're going to really, really push the envelope. So I think there's a lot there. Now, what does the future hold? I mean, I often like to joke with people, you know, Jason can't speak, but maybe he could text. So, you know, if you gave him a phone, he could text you. I'm right behind you, LOL. Something, I don't know. No, honestly, I think there's things that are like Jason versus AI, you know, or something like that.
They should do a Jason versus Michael Myers.
Well, if you can get them all to agree, that would be a big moneymaker. Freddy versus Jason is the second biggest box office next to the film that I had the honor to be in the entire franchise. So, yeah. Or what about who you just mentioned, Leatherface? Jason versus Leatherface, in my opinion, would be really great because they're both just kind of, I don't know. We kind of feel sorry for both of them in a little ways. Whereas Michael, he's just evil. He's
Mike is just on a whole other spectrum of evil. He
kills firemen.
Yeah, he wanted to be that way.
What's his thing, man? That got me upset. My wife had to tell me it's just a movie. Sit down, eat your dinner.
Right. Like, you know, I always wondered, right? Like, when it came to Jason, like the character, you know what I'm saying? What was your thoughts on, you know, him being so, you know, silent? Wouldn't you want to talk in the movies and stuff like that?
Sure. I did think about it a lot because, I was kind of a serious little kid. And there's the famous story of Kevin Bacon. He was in the woods relieving himself. And then I was looking into the lake to kind of psych myself into it, you know, this dark little child looking into the lake. And he comes over and I guess he was a little worried. He goes, "What are you doing, Ari?" And I said, "I'm getting into character, man." And he just laughed so hard, you know. But see, I had thought about it because it's that kid at the back of the room, okay? It's the disabled kid that nobody talks to and is largely silent. And here it was my chance, and I saw it as an opportunity, but also as a responsibility that I was the one to depict that.
Right.
And I thought to myself, well, they deserve a voice. And characters in these films, they speak through action. They speak, even if it's violent action. And bear in mind, the little boy does not succeed in drowning the girl. She wakes up in the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, she wakes up in the hospital. So to me, but I said, it's not saying that these children are violent to portray it that way. It's saying, because this is a movie, that they deserve to have an equal voice. And I think that the way it was done was just subtle enough so that it gave the right energy, so that I do have so many parents with differently abled children who come to the table. And that has afforded me to see that a lot of these kids who are on the spectrum have other capabilities that we might not perceive all the time. They always seem to be like they're so sweet to me, and because they identify and
Right.
they can't express themselves, so they hug and their faces and I sign the autograph. We take a picture together, and it's really a high honor to, in my opinion, that I get that opportunity, and I think that there's more to it in the sense that a child like that would be so emotionally motivated that if somebody, in other words, there is that emotional power, and it's really compassion. That's why he's done that. Of course, we do have to perceive that Jason is a villain ultimately.
Mhm.
But what is it? It's that he's just gone overboard.
Right.
It's righteous vengeance gone awry. He's taking it too far. But that's what movies are about.
Okay. So I always wanted to ask the people this question, right? Remember, that sound? Where did that sound come from? How did y'all come up with that sound?
Harry Manfredini. Harry Manfredini is the soundtrack composer of all the Friday the 13th. Well, most of them, and also for the video game. And so, way back then, they didn't have digital reverb unit. Like you have digital reverb in your phone now, but the digital reverb unit had just come in. It was 1979. And so Harry got a digital reverb unit that was probably the size of a table. And so he was like, I've got to put this to use. I mean, if you have any friends who are recording engineers, they always want to use their new toy, whatever just came in. Oh, let's put this in your song, man. I'm like, why? I just got it, But so that's what it was. He had a new echo unit. Now, also, he was fascinated with this Eastern European composer, Penderecki, who had done stuff for 2001 Space Odyssey. And what he would do is he would just take one syllable and he would have actually like the Vienna Boys Choir sing this one syllable, but like in quarter tones apart. So what he did was he took the syllable for kill and mom. And he said ki ma into his new reverb unit. He just went ki, and it came out ch, ch, ch. And he said,
Oh,
and it came out ma. And that's what he did. So it's really saying kill ma, kill mom, kill her mommy. But
wow.
yeah,
I never knew that.
That's what it is. And so it just maybe because it was such a bad reverb unit back then that it kind of changed the way it sounds. But yeah, that just became an iconic sound. And I think Harry Manfredini is very proud of that. He always points out that in the first film, whenever you hear the soundtrack, the killer is present. And the sound design of the first Friday the 13th is really something else. It's not something you want to have like playing in the background if you're trying to sleep, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It's very jarring, and they do these little things with suspense and one note being held for a long time, and then whammo! It's like wow. So, people out there should get Harry Manfredini's vinyl. He's got I think at least the first 1 through 7 is on vinyl now, and they do beautiful renditions, and I'd love to autograph them for you.
Awesome. So, I have a question, another question, what made you really take on the Jason persona and really just go off and just wear it every day?
Well, yeah, no, that's a great question. That's definitely because of First Jason, my metal band. I had been all along performing as a reggae performer and world music performer, and here in Chicago, playing at the reggae clubs and blues clubs and funk clubs and all the jazz clubs, everything. But I perceived that horror fans love metal and punk. And so, instead of trying to kind of meet them around, in a different way, I just said, why don't I just hit them where they live? And I took a bit of time to create First Jason. So, and people always say, well, Ari, it still has a lot of funk and blues and jazz in it somehow, and reggae, largely because I'm playing a keytar and not a guitar. But now I learned from several artists who helped me a lot. One was there was this radical left-wing band called Reagan Youth way back in the 80s. And so Reagan Dave used to bring me to CBGBs and I saw the Ramones, I saw Bad Brains. We were all obsessed with Bad Brains and all these bands, okay? And so I drew upon that. And then I got to meet these metal musicians, like from Chicago. There was a band called Macabre, and their bass player, they kind of had a break in their touring. So he jumped in and he helped me a lot. And he's called Nefarious from Macabre. Also, another musician from a band called Cro-Mags helped me a lot. They all were my friends all along, and they helped me in making that transition. And then punk and metal scene is very open-eared and open-hearted and open-minded, and they gave me a chance to find my voice. So when I finally did, one of the first people to invite me, and actually I'm wearing his shirt right now, was Incantation, this band, which is a thrash metal band. And he said, I like what you're doing, Ari. Come out and be a part of what we're doing. So we were on our first big festival. And then another band called Ice Nine Kills, very famous now. They included me on one of their songs. Okay. And then now there's another band called Twisted, who recently, they come out of the, it's like hip hop, hardcore hip hop scene. So that kind of helped us get on our feet a lot. So, you know what it is? Okay. I perceive that everybody in the long run is going to connect me with Jason no matter what. So instead of trying to, play it as a trivia thing, I said, why don't we have fun with it? Usually people would associate the way I look with playing rock and being like, hey, peace and love, let's all get together, and which is what I really do believe. But when you take this and you make it into a metal guy who's playing a heavy metal guitar that's about Jason, now it's got some entertainment value because it's funny too. There's a comedy part to it as well. And people appreciate the comedy side to First Jason. And honestly, First Jason is not what you'd call a vanity project, as some of the other actors who have rock bands out there do. First Jason is my job. This is what we do. We show up at clubs, we fill the clubs, we entertain those people. One of the things that works to our advantage is there's these little bands all over the country, all over the world, who are horror metal bands and horror punk bands. So when we show up, we all get together and it's like horror metal night. And what can I say? I like performing so much. Usually we're performing in a club that's about 300 to 500. And I'm happy with that. I love that. Sometimes, like recently, we performed in England for 3,000 people, and we brought the house down. And that was after the great Tim Capello, the sax player from Lost Boys, was there. So, I'm just so happy. I guess the answer to the question is that because the people love that I celebrate the character. And I think any entertainer knows that you should always do what the people love.
Absolutely.
So, you know, if it was, you know, I see other actors and how they approach this thing, and I do think that I have a extremely unique role in the whole picture. But yeah, I think by embracing it, it creates this fun aspect that you know, people come in to check and see, is he for real, and then they go away going, wow, he's for real.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, you taking on the character and really wearing it, really taking it on, and it's becoming a part of your life. That is something to be proud of, you know. And it's your first one ever.
Well, that's
Like,
right. I am the OG. You can't get more first. I'm the most first. You can't out first me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I got
can't nobody get saved. Go, bro.
Well,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
I just want to know, what would be your top 5 horror movies and killers of all time?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow.
It don't have to be in order. It doesn't have to be in order, but I gotta know the top 5.
Well, the movies, I love a lot of really cool horror movies out there. Probably my favorite horror movie of all time is Night of the Hunter, starring Robert Mitchum, which is more than just a horror movie, but it has some very horrific aspects. He's an itinerant preacher who goes around the country murdering widows. And yeah, it's pretty intense. It's Shelley Winter's first film. It was directed by Charles Lawton, the only film he ever directed. The use of music in it is absolutely unforgettable. But also, it's these 2 children are running away from him, and it's absolutely frightening. And if you're interested in a movie that probably had an effect on Friday the 13th, it would be Dementia 13, which you probably haven't heard of. Dementia 13, which is Francis Ford Coppola's first ever entrance into the big time. And it's great. It's kind of like the story of Friday the 13th, but it's like it was released like 10 or more years prior. As if it's about a rich woman who is in a big mansion, and she commemorates this day on which her daughter drowned every year. It's the same kind of thing. Her daughter drowned in the pond on the land, and she commemorates it every year. But it's a fantastic horror film. And then, well, you could go all the way back. I love Durgolem, which is the original Frankenstein story, in which a rabbi creates an elemental to save the Jewish people from, you know, the pogroms and from persecution. God bless you, by the way. And Paul Wegener, who is plays huge Golem, but he's also the director. He wrote the movie and he stars in it. It's an absolute piece of genius. Now, gosh, okay. Devil's Rejects by Rob Zombie, I think you'd really have to include, because it encapsulates so much of the current vision of what's going on. And then I guess you'd have to end with Terrifier or Terrifier 2, because if we're talking about horror, they've really taken up the mantle and really done an amazing job with it. So, but as far as killers go, that's a good one. I'd have to start with Dr. Phibes, played by Vincent Price. Dr. Phibes is one of my favorite characters, because he kills in such wonderful ways. Yeah, everything in that movie, it's all about his crazy ways. Then, well, let's say Oliver Reed as the Wolfman in Curse of the Wolfman, which is the Hammer horror Wolfman story. The reason I love that one so much is because he doesn't want to be the Wolfman. He's struggling. He's got the little gypsy lady, and they're trying to figure it out. And he doesn't want to be the Wolfman. But then, why is my bed all full of blood this morning? You know, he's like, he woke up and in the middle of the night, he did the killing. And then what happened? So he's trying to figure it out. It's almost like he's in psychological turmoil. So it's got this wonderful complexity. And I love that. So what is that 3? We're up to 3. No, it's like hold on. Hellboy. I love all the Hellboy movies. I love Hellboy. Now is Hellboy, he is a killer, but he's also a hero, I guess. But he's super badass. That's Ron Perlman. Yeah. So I guess you could say that's like the superhero movie for horror. And you know, what about Jaws? I mean, isn't Jaws one of the greatest?
Jaws to be one.
Time?
There you go. Not many people will say that, but that's a good pick. That's a great pick.
I know. I mean, of course, I'll put all of us together on a Mount Slashmore, if you will, with Jason, Freddy, Leatherface, and Michael. Sure. But if you were really to look at the one that I love the most out of all those, it's Hell Priest, which was brilliantly by Doug Bradley. And I love Hell Priest because he's so Shakespearean, you know, and it's wonderful. He gets great speeches. It's like theater, and Doug is just brilliant. He loves to tease me. He's not a big Friday the 13th fan, but I love Hellraiser. So I said to him, I love Hellraiser. And he said to me, Ari, I love you. But in my movie, and he says, in your movie, the monster comes out and disappears. In my movie, the monster comes out, asks you for a cigarette, eats dinner with you, and more, and gets rid of the other guy. So, yeah. So it's fantastic.
So what do you think about, like, Candyman and all
how could I forget Candyman? No, you're right. I do love Candyman. Candyman, when I saw that initially, because, you know, I grew up in New York City, and wow, yeah. But more than the film Candyman, I really would like to speak about Tony Todd.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've met Tony, but
I haven't met him yet.
Well, he's one of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. And I don't think anyone would say I'm exaggerating if you met him. He's it's hard to express what a fine actor he is. His capacity is, he could be the greatest actor alive in America today. And I'm so happy that he's got this role in the Transformer film. He's the voice of one the big evil character, and which is a triumph for him. But Tony could do anything. He could do Shakespeare. He can recite anything. He's had such an amazing experience in life. But that's not the reason that makes him so amazing. The reason that makes him so amazing is he's always present, always thoughtful. I can't express how he's just a very loving and caring person. And he's given me a lot of inspiration and a lot of education. So, yeah, here's to Tony Todd. And so Candyman is just a bit of that. But, of course, Candyman is amazingly frightening.
Very frightening. I had nightmares of that stuff.
I would say him and Pinhead were the ones I was most afraid of as a kid. Candyman and Pinhead, man, they were something different. They were different.
There's something about those characters, and you think about it, both of those actors are from that Shakespearean or traditional theatrical, they have real technique, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's excellent taste in being scared.
What about the movie Hatchet Face?
Hatchet Face?
No, matter of fact, Hatchet.
What do you mean Hatchet? Well, of
Hatchet.
course, that's my good buddy Kane Hodder, and Kane got to realize a special thing. That's with Adam Green and Kane did Hatchet. I think the first Hatchet is good. Yeah, Tony's in Hatchet, and he does a great job in there. I think that Adam was kind of building something they didn't really get to finish, but yeah, no, I love that series. I think that perhaps if it had been approached as a straight up independent film, the way they're doing that now with Terrifier, it would have been. But it was a weird time, And you look at now with the writer's strike and everything happening, it's an odd time for Hollywood. But yeah, I think that Hatchet was something else. I like how they situated in New Orleans. I like that Tony played the voodoo priest. Honestly, though, I think they could have gone further with that. I would have liked to see more Tony in that. I would have liked to see more voodoo priest.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better. It would have been more, more strange and crazy and scary.
Going somewhere with that was so different than Friday the 13th that I liked. There was a mystical something, and I was like, wow, where's it going? But I don't know. Maybe I'll bet you that there'll be more Hatchets coming in, knowing Adam.
Hell yeah. I would love to see that, But is there anything else you would love to get out?
I just want everybody to keep checking out the In Your Face show. And when you come to a First Jason concert, or you come to meet me at the table at where we're going to be at, we're at these new Catastrophicon coming up. And what else are we at coming up? We're at all these amazing shows. We're at Crypticon, Kansas City is next weekend. Then we're going to be at Subalpine in Pittsburgh. But wherever we are, whether we're at a big convention or mention the In Your Face show, and you're going to get something free from me, Ari Lehman, rhymes with demon, the first Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. And we've got a new song coming out called Barbalian. Okay, it's about an alien who lands on the planet, but she's a barbarian. So she hits me on the head and takes me back to her planet. It's a comedy song. And we just did a new video that's going to be coming out soon. But what I'd love for everyone to do, check us out on Spotify, First Jason. Check out YouTube, First Jason. And again, when you see me in public, mention In Your Face, and I will give you something free. And I thank you so much, Daniel and David. This is really, really fun and insightful discussion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been a lot and very honored. We're very honored to have you on the show because, man, like First Jason, what were the odds? What were the odds, man? So I'm thankful and I'm grateful. And I'm thankful to God about that. And I'm also thank you for y'all tuning in. So I got to take us out, unfortunately.
Well, it's been great talking with you, and God bless you, and have a blessed 4th of July. And
yes, sir.
May we meet again in the near future.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We will.
Too. Yes, sir. Too. Also, for y'all that's watched, that was watching, that is going to watch in the future, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell on, and you'll get all that is the In Your Face show. And we're here with Mr. Ari Lehman, and we out. Peace.
But first,